assume?
Yeah, it is 10 o'clock at night here in the US. So
But that's a good time for you, or?
it's not the greatest time, but it's also not the worst time. But there's not a whole lot of great times that where the US and Japan can overlap anyways. So
Yep.
it's not, this isn't the worst time. If this would have been at like 2 a.m, I would have said no. So
No, I can imagine that. No, we're all looking forward to your contribution. A wonderful job, I think you did already. That was very nice. That was an idea from Ray or your own idea?
So I was actually brought in. So I've been working for Blues for 2-3 months now, so I'm pretty new. And I was brought in partially to work on this. So my background is both engineering and also like DevRel marketing type stuff. And so I'm doing like half of working on this sort of thing and half like just general like Blues. Like I work on honestly a little bit of everything. So it wasn't my idea. This was one of the things that, because my engineering background is mostly in front end development. So, and Blues was looking for some front end people for projects like this. And so when I was brought in, I was told that we were looking to really the Blues idea behind this is we want to build more in terms of apps that showcase like full like end-to-end solution of the hardware that we make. So the airnote is like a great showcase of like, this is actually a production thing that you can put out there. And one component that we additionally want to have is like the full, like, here's how you can actually build an app for it as well. So take the data and like have something we can show people like, hey, here's the sort of thing that you can build too with our hardware. So this, like the airnote was a logical starting point for that, since the hardware already existed, right? We're already, a lot of this is already out there, but it's something that we want to build other apps for this, for other like common IoT types of use cases as well for the future.
Yeah, that's great. And also that it's your code is open source, and so it's easy for people to pick it up and to modify it and to work on it. That's great. I mean, great idea.
Yep. Yeah. And that was part of the idea of these like projects is, we want to make them easy for people to grab them and do, whatever they want with them, really. Okay, although I have to say, you recommended, I think GitPod, was that the name of it? I still haven't looked into it yet, but I have it on my list. I have not forgotten about it.
No, the GitPod was more that it's very easy to start up. The whole environment is set up. So if one time you set it up and another developer comes in, you only have to change the code and it all runs.
Yeah.
That's the idea. If you have a reasonable fast connection. Oh, by the way, I have to shut down soon my video because I'm taking away too much bandwidth for my data pack. So
yeah, can't wait till 5G gets to your neck of the woods there, Rob. It's going to be a whole new world for you.
Starlink, we already applied for it.
Yeah.
That's
interesting.
I wonder which one's going to get there first, Starlink or 5G.
I guess. I guess where exactly are you guys based? I know roughly, but I don't. Are you in a fairly rural area for like bad connectivity, or?
I live off-grid in the mountains in Nara, so my closest place is 45 minutes by car.
Okay.
So
yeah.
And I'm self-supporting, so my own water, my own electricity, own heating, everything is just myself.
Oh man!
Designed my own house here in the mountains. So
not just designed, but built as well.
Oh wow! Designed. Okay. Yeah. I can understand that, but also, I'm impressed you have connectivity at all. Then, honestly.
Yeah. 4G in Japan is pretty good, but you do have data caps. So.
Yeah, and and we just, if you go 50 meters beyond the house, there's no 4G anymore. So it's like on the edge, living on the edge. That's good. Keeps you sharp.
One of the really fun things about Rob's house that I didn't realize until way too late is that it also is designed to be floatable. So it's like, the whole thing has its own buoyancy. And so even the event of like a major flood or something like that, Rob and his family should be all good. So totally self-sufficient and ready for almost any type of disaster.
That is next level.
Yeah, it really is. It's amazing. And I didn't know it. He showed me the designs for the house, but I didn't know, like, I saw it in CAD. I didn't know the walls were built out of like polyethylene or whatever it is. I forget what the material, but yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Meanwhile, I've been having trouble fixing a cabinet in my house, so that's that's where I'm at.
That's also a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm in the woods of Yamanashi. I'm on the grid, so I'm not as hardcore as Rob is. But
where is Yamanashi in terms of like I know like the super high level Japan geography. So
if you know roughly in Japan where Tokyo is, and you go due west from there, you'll run into my house after you go about 3 hours by train or 5 hours by car.
Okay.
Or I guess more like 4 hours by car, but. Yep. And then if you keep going west, southwest in particular, then you'll end up in Rob's neck of the woods, which is down in Nara.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I will switch off my video because otherwise,
go for it.
we're late. Yeah, I'm still here, so.
No worries. I'll +1 Rob's Gitpod recommendation. I think it's good. Obviously you have your own dev environment and that works well, but the thing that we've seen was really useful. We did Gitpod for the Rails app. And then when we had new volunteers come in, it made it really easy because you can just like click, like in our README, there's like a Gitpod button, and you just push that and you get VS Code like in a browser with all the dependencies and everything installed. So you don't there's nothing to do really. You just start editing code and refreshing the page. And that's it. So.
Yeah, I've got like on my short list things to look into that, and also like some like simple CI/CD type of stuff for the app as well, because there's the render service that we're using has some like CD built into it, like that I think is actually already set up, but I need to do some things, like there's some tests that are in the repo that like I want to like automatically run and that sort of thing, and it's on my list. But
I've had pretty good luck with GitHub Actions. So if you decide to get into that and need some pointers, I could probably give you some ideas.
Okay.
We don't have CD implemented, but that's partly just because I didn't want to be like super liberal with it. Like what I would really love to have for Safecast CD is every build goes into the Slack channel, and then it's up to a human to decide like, yeah, I want to deploy this, because I just don't want to have a case where like it's all open, and I didn't want to have a situation where someone could like open up a pull request that would potentially like activate the CD pipeline, because then you sort of get into potential exfiltration of secrets and that sort of thing. So
yeah, well, and especially if things are open to like, I mean, presumably you would trust anybody to push to master main, but like at the same time, like there could be people doing that don't necessarily realize that it's going to trigger a process or like an actual live deployment, and might not be as careful. So
yeah, exactly. So that's why like I haven't hooked it up. I would love to have just like a Slack button. That's my ideal, is that any build on any branch or any PR like gets a button, and then it's up to someone who's in the Safecast Slack channel to push the button. Yeah. What are you saying, Rob?
No, I said that it happened before. That was me. I messed up. I remember that still.
Yeah.
Well, everybody does it though. Like it's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing with the like Gitpod and easy things that I feel like TJ's work really highlighted for me. I mentioned this last week as well, that it'd be awesome to put a anonymous Elasticsearch proxy up, so that way for like what TJ did, you wouldn't even require a password. So a I'll let you know if I end up having time to do that. I can't say for sure if I will. If you know of anyone on your end who's interested in setting that up, it requires a little more server side work to do that, some Nginx configuration, but it's not too bad. So
yeah, we're going to be exploring that sort of thing as well, because this is like this sort of searchable thing is because, I mean, with Blues, we have a lot of big data sets, right? Like
Yep.
IoT sensor data, and having more of like a recommended customer way of handling this also comes up, because like people can store their data with us, but obviously we're not as like our data storage is intended to be like a pass through, right? Like kind of like what we're doing with Safecast is like a perfect example of that. So
yeah, it could be cool to even have a Elasticsearch connector that, you know, you just give it your Elasticsearch endpoint and it'll just write, and then you can do whatever you want with it.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think that's something we're gonna explore at some point, because I like, since I'm mostly a front end person, Elastic was new to me, and it's very powerful, but it's also like, I think I told you, it's like quite overwhelming as well. Like there's
it can
so
do a lot.
much you can do.
Yeah, and it's funny, it started so simply, like it was just a really basic like a REST wrapper around like a Lucene index, and that was it. And then, but you know, that was what, 12 years ago at this point. So it's evolved quite a bit and has all sorts of different little functions these days.
Yep. Yeah, I've got, again, I feel like all I'm talking about is the things I need to do, but I've got your aggregates stuff listed down too, because I need to play with that too.
Yeah. Like, and I don't think what you have right now works fine. But you know, if you ever, especially because you're mostly just focusing on like a single device, but if you ever want to do something similar for, say, like all devices in the US or something like that, I think that's where you're going to start seeing some savings, because rather than having like this big wire transfer, you can just have Elasticsearch do all the aggregation on its end and then send you just the aggregated points.
And we are looking to do more. Like we're not planning on just like, you know, this isn't a one and done thing. Like we do want to add more functionality to this. So that's why, like, I think this is going to be relevant, because I'm not going to need less data over time.
Yeah.
Actually, probably the biggest thing we're going to look to address is we have a lot of people that get a bunch of air notes and they want to see like some almost like dashboard of like their air notes. Like, so like we have one person who helps run a school system and wants to see wants an air note in various schools around their district and wants to see a reading of all of them. And we have someone else that runs a soccer league and in California, and they deal with wildfires, and it's like a safety thing where they want to have air sensors at all of their soccer complexes, but they want like which is cool, right? But right now it's like, if you want to do that, it's like, it's a little more challenging, right? Like you have the map, but they kind of want like a consolidated, this is the one place I go where I just see really quickly
just my stuff,
my air notes sort of thing. So like those sort of like aggregated data views are probably going to become more relevant.
And I think as long as they use a consistent, I think the field might still be called custodian or something along those lines. Like there's a field in there that sort of designates like the owner information. And so long as they use a consistent owner string, what we should be able to do is almost the same thing you've done, but aggregating on that owner string instead of on device ID, filtering on the custodian string and then doing probably an aggregate to show you all of the devices that belong to that custodian string.
Yes, that was also very interesting, because I would like to, if there's possibility to get, we're looking for a replacement for real time. If we can integrate or switch to this, basically the system we built, but then for all the devices in a row, so we can click from there. We have I don't know, real time is, maybe I should introduce that. Real time is an SQL database, and it runs WordPress, and we displaying the, the real time data from the devices. So you have a whole list. You can see directly, you can filter it out, and it's very fast. And but the problem is the graphs are generated once a day, and it pulls the data from the API, and it doesn't pull it efficiently. So the API get locked up, and there's many troubles with it. And it's time to let it rest, and get a good replacement. We've been looking for, and Matt has been doing a lot of work and very good work for it already. And that's close, but if we can integrate it in this in your system, I mean the system you built, that looks wonderful. I mean, it's fast, it's simple, and it's flexible.
Yeah, no, I'm just Matt sent me the link, so I'm just perusing it as you were talking. Yeah, for sure. And like I said, this is like early days, right? So I'm not totally sure what it is we're gonna be doing yet exactly, but I can definitely, keep you guys in the loop with any ideas we have for, feedback or whatever.
Yeah. I wasn't thinking about that, but yeah, it would.
Yesterday I had.
Okay.
Yesterday I had a talk with Peter, and he had many points, but one most important point was the lack of information, how the data is acquired. For example, for the AQI calculation, what kind of calculation is being used, and if you can make something like a small eye in on the corner, and then people can see how it's acquired and things like that. And is it the average or is it peak what you're displaying? So because that's a whole different story, what to do about that daily peak, weekly peak. And we are thinking about for Safecast to do the globally, to have one time slot in a day that we measure, and then we display this data. So there are many ways to think about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's interesting because the part of the dashboard, like my background coming into this is to assume like, okay, this is a person that just bought an airnote that's using this. So some of it is they're very aware of what the sensor is, but really these are, first of all, I think people that own them would still be somewhat curious about exactly how the airnote is acquiring and doing these things. But beyond that, these are like public links. These are public data that's shareable. And so people that just stumble upon this might be curious to know, like, what is this that I'm seeing?
Yeah, there's many more points, but I will ask Peter to make a list, and we can put them on GitHub so we can all see the issues and the ideas. We can brainstorm about it. And this, and also one very important point, I don't know if you're aware of it, there was an AQ spec field evaluation from the airnote, and it was mentioned that the PM10 is not up to specs. So it's better to display PM1 and PM2.5, and at the moment disregard the PM10 because it's not the specs what it's supposed to be. It's out of spec.
Interesting. Okay.
I can send you for that. Hold on, let me send you the link because that's very important, I think, to know.
Yeah, actually, and I'm curious your guys' perspective on this too. One trouble, one thing I ran into is I was having trouble finding research on PM1 in terms of, because the UI we went with is very like stoplight focused, right? Good, bad sort of thing. And I couldn't find good, reliable like research on like what are good levels of PM1 and what are bad. Maybe you helped me out here. And
the best I could offer is like, first off, the government has their own papers around like AQI computation that cover some of that stuff. I don't know if they cover PM1. And then the other person who had asked is Joe, assuming he's safe and home at this point because he was trying to get back from the US to Japan recently.
I chatted yesterday.
Did he make it?
No, didn't make it, and
no,
he has back
okay.
trouble. So don't worry, he will come, but he didn't know when exactly.
Because Joe is a wealth of information on all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah,
Okay.
sensor
Yeah.
specialist. Yeah, very good.
And it keeps really up on top of like the standing research on various sensors and how to translate those into impact into human conditions and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think Joe
I could
is an
ask
amazing
because I did try to look through government sites. That's actually where I was able to find things from like government authoritative research sort of for 2.5 and 10. Those are pretty well documented, but one, for whatever reason, I was striking out with. But I'm also like, this sort of stuff I'm also like completely new to, right? So I'm mostly just Googling it because
that's what we all do.
yeah, exactly.
That's what anyone ever does, really. Yeah, I would, as soon as we can get a contact with Joe, we can just ping him in the Slack too, and he'll respond as soon as he can, I'm sure. But he would be my go-to for anything that's not easily Googleable. And it could be he'll even come back with, actually, there's not a lot of good research on it yet. But he's a good authority on, where things are at as far as the research goes too. So ASBE is another one who keeps good tabs on that, but I think more for radiation than air. So.
Yeah, SB is more the social. He knows the social structures and the communities around the sensors and the data. He's a teacher in the university, I think, and an artist. So it's a mixture. So, but yeah, he's a good source too. And I pasted a link for Purple Air. You can see how. Did you check out Purple Air?
Yeah, I've been looking at what they do quite a bit.
They have many good things on the sites, I think, and also about where the information comes from, what kind of information, and how they set up. It's maybe too much detailed for the work you've done so far, but it's a very useful source. Also, I was just thinking when I was using your interface, is it possible to roll over and for example, a measurement and to see a graph of it? Oh, that's going to be tough, I think, but that would be ideally. So you can see if there's a peak or if there is an average if you roll it over.
Yep. I mean, definitely all doable. It's just a matter of, prioritizing what we think are the most useful, important features sort of thing. But it's definitely doable. And like you said, I like a lot of the stuff that Purple Air does. I'm a pretty big fan. Their map, I think they did a pretty darn good job with, because it's super easy to sort of pan and zoom around and get like a rough sense of your area or any area. So they did that really nice. And some of the charts too, like you said, like tooltips, just like get a quick sense of is my AQI or whatever. They let you do it for like any stat, but is this just like an outlier? Is this a trend? So yep.
Yeah, that's good to look at. Yeah, and just wondering, completely different idea that, but what's Ray inputs on this? Is it just you yourself inside the whole team, or you have feedback from them, or?
Yeah, that's actually one thing I brought this up at our meetings here today, is like it's one thing I'm sort of, to be totally transparent, struggling with, is like, who is the owner of, like, from like a PM perspective, because I'm like the engineering person. And so I have some level of decision-making authority, but I'm not like czar of the airnote either. So obviously Ray would have the ultimate like hammer, but he's also a pretty busy dude, and he's not necessarily going to micromanage like different tasks that go in here. So it's still something we're trying to figure out internally a bit, but right now, like, we decided sort of as a group, like, that the version that is out there now is like our sort of first go at this, and then now we got to decide what we're going to do from here in terms of the next batch of features and such, and that's sort of still like TBD. and we're still figuring out. The thing about Blues is like we just hired a whole bunch of people, so there's a lot of just like putting some of the processes in place around that. Like I've been there 2-3 months, right? So I'm still figuring things out as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, congrats on the new job.
Good to know that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there more important things we have to discuss? Because in 3 minutes I have to leave to the next event. So
I'm good.
No,
Much to report
like
on
you
me.
said, yeah. If you said you had the other feedback, if you just shoot it to me wherever, Slack or so I can take a look, and I can make sure to note those down as we decide what we're working on next. But I appreciate it.
maybe the easiest if we put it on issues in Slack, in GitHub, so we can keep track of them
my
and
vote.
other people can see them. And
Yeah.
that's my idea.
No reason not to do it publicly. I like it.
And then maybe even make a project out of it. Do you use projects in GitHub? Like
we don't in GitHub. Maybe there's some potential to do some of our tracking for that project publicly. Right now we have like our own like internal Blues tracker, but it's actually a pretty decent idea to move some of like our planning to a public place, because it's a public project. So
and you have much more interaction with other people, so you can different kind of feedback than except the group. So
yep, I making a note to bring that up before I forget. Yep.
Yeah, that's going to be your end users, and that's what you really would like to know from a marketing perspective. If you get feedback from the users, that's the best, I think.
I agree. Yeah, I made a note, so I don't forget about it when I go to sleep.
I left you one more link there, TJ. When you do discuss it, GitHub has a new issue tracking system on the horizon that if anyone's connected to the right people to get Blues access to, it's probably Ray. So, I'm on the wait list for like 3 organizations now and still waiting for it, and it looks really useful.
See if I can name drop Ray to get some super special access. Yeah,
get Ray a nudge and be like, I think this might be cool. If
Ray,
we just get in. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, I have to say bye-bye.
Yep.
Yeah, I
gotta get going. Nice
Cool.
seeing you
Sounds
guys.
Good. Likewise.
Thanks for the talk,
Yeah.
Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.
Sleep well.